So first, what Shippo does, my name is Laura. I run a company called Shippo. Shippo is an API that powers e-commerce. So we help our customers who are platforms and marketplaces and also e-commerce stores ship whatever they're selling to the end customer. And I think by now shipping and shipping technology is a little sexier, but back then when I was pitching in, I think, 2014, shipping APIs were not super hot yet. I'm also a European founder, so I didn't have a lot of experience pitching. And the first time I pitched Uncork Capital, like what happened was that I brought my laptop that I had used throughout college for 5 years, and it got stuck. And it just wouldn't project to the screen anymore. And Jeff, one of the partners there, he's like looking at his watch, like very obviously annoyed, and I just couldn't get my shit together.
So one of the first things you did was go out and buy a new laptop. The money, right?
with the money, yes.
So before we jump in, I want to talk a little bit more what Shippo does for its customers. Just by show of hands, so we know who's in the room right now. How many of you are running a startup? Okay. And how many of you are running a startup that ships something? Okay, and how many of you are in some way involved with shipping something, whether you're running a startup or, okay. We got a lot of shippers in the audience. Okay, great.
What about marketplaces? Lots of marketplaces in here? Everyone should be.
Everybody should be. Very cool. Right? All right, so you taught us a little bit high level, but what does Shippo specifically do? What do you actually do for your customers?
Yeah, so all of our customers sell physical products, and just by nature of e-commerce, they need to figure out how to get their items from wherever their warehouse is, wherever they're storing their products, to the end customer. So what we're doing is we give them an interface that connects the e-commerce stores, the platforms, the marketplaces, to a network of different shipping providers, and then we help them optimize between providers. So we make sure that our customers always get the best shipping options, the best shipping rates. We give them the shipping label, we give them tracking numbers, customs forms. It's like a one-stop shop for everything shipping related. And if you want an analogy, I think like back then when I pitched investors, you can call it Twilio for shipping, Stripe for shipping. These are easy to use analogies.
So can you give us a sense of what kind of volume you're doing in terms of monthly or daily like volume?
Yeah. So right now we're working with roughly 30,000 e-commerce merchants, and our customers ship anything between 100 and 10,000 packages a month. So our customers, like right now, the sweet spot is SMBs, but a lot of our SMB customers, they're also aggregated on different like platforms and marketplaces. So that's why like this talk could be relevant, because we actually power a lot of these platforms and marketplaces.
Yeah. So that was my next question. So who do you actually, what are some of the marketplaces you power? Some of them maybe in the room today, but some of the marketplaces we would know.
So we have a bunch of like secondhand seems to be a big thing. So we have a bunch of secondhand marketplaces on our platform that we're really proud of. Goat is a sneaker. They're actually not secondhand. They're high-end sneaker marketplace. Then we have Depop. I think they're pretty prominent in Europe as well. We've got Mercari. That's a huge Japanese secondhand marketplace. We also work with Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, a bunch of these like secondhand or peer-to-peer marketplaces are really good customers for us.
Yeah, and so, you know, with that in mind, what do you think are some of the challenges some of these peer-to-peer marketplaces face?
Yeah.
It's not easy when your sellers are actually people like you or me as individuals, right?
Yeah. I think it starts with what you said. A lot of these sellers, they're amateur sellers. Like they're people shipping out of their own closets, people that are not professional shippers, so they have no idea how to even get started. That's the first challenge that a lot of our marketplaces face. The second one is like as you start a marketplace, I think shipping is not the first thing that you think about. It's the chicken and egg problem that you need to solve at first. And then there's often no standard for shipping across the marketplace. So what that means, as an example, Amazon has a clear standard. It's Amazon Prime. But a lot of other marketplaces, well, like eBay, for example, the seller chooses what shipping method to use, how much to charge, how long this will take. So as you shop on eBay, you don't know, like when you find an item you like, you don't know how long it's going to take you. Every seller has a different standard. And then when the marketplace finally comes to solving the problem and try to standardize this, like what we often see is that shipping eats into their margins. So as our customers set up a standard rate for shipping, sometimes it goes above that, sometimes it goes like under that, and our customers don't know what standard rates to set.
Yeah, so let's double click a little bit on that. Like how does that happen? Like I'm Goat. And is everything I'm shipping exactly neat and fit in the same package?
Yeah. So I mean,
does it weigh the same thing?
I wish. So ideally what happens is you want the consumer, when they come to your platform, to see a couple of consistent shipping rates and consistent shipping times. So you want customers to know if they buy like small items, shipping will always be this price. If they buy large items, shipping will always be this price. You don't want customers to be surprised at checkout. I think that's really important for conversion rates at checkout. So what we're seeing is that our customers, like some of the larger marketplaces, they're able to group, like find different tiers of these items are always small items, and they have a catalog of that. So when someone is shipping jewelry, they know this is a lightweight small item and it falls into the low shipping tier. If someone is shipping, a TV, they know based on their catalog that this is a bigger item and goes into the more expensive shipping tier. And then they set up like maybe 1 to 3 different shipping tiers, small, mid, large. Mercari is a great example for that, so that customers always know what to expect. On the other hand, there is an interesting thing where like the sellers can game that system. They can claim this is a small item in order to be charged less for shipping, when in fact this is a large item. And then that goes into something a lot more complicated, which is shipping fraud. But yes, there are ways to game that system. However, like we see our customers like having big databases of product categories to be able to always figure out like where how big a certain item is.
So I think that's a great example in terms of size and volume. Maybe some other ways that you've seen some of your marketplace customers leverage data.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you had mentioned to me was around location too. There's some folks doing some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, if we just talk about shipping, I mean, there are lots of ways to leverage data, but if we just talk about shipping, what we see is like some of our customers, our marketplace customers, they rank items that are closer to the buyer. They rank them higher so that the buyer sees items that are in close proximity, and that way they can lower shipping costs because they're buying a product that's very close by. That's another like great way to hack this, because when we look at retailers typically try to put their inventory into a warehouse that's close to customer demand, and that's something that like marketplaces can replicate by that sort of ranking.
Yeah, and then how do you think about like the shift as some of these marketplaces go from local, regional, or national to international?
Oh yeah,
right. Because that's a whole nother. I heard that question a bunch from folks earlier. It's a whole nother level of complexity, right?
Yeah. So if we start with like hyper local, we've seen a bunch of marketplaces. OfferUp is actually also one of our customers. OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace, both of them started as hyper local marketplaces, meaning that they wanted people to like meet up in person, exchange like items and have that sort of experience. As they started to expand more nationally, like shipping, you can't meet someone when you're in San Francisco and that person is selling from New York. So they had to introduce shipping to it. I think another upside of introducing shipping is also that you're able to capture the money transfer through the marketplace, because that way you're not meeting up and exchanging money in person. It has to be captured through the marketplace you're working with. And then for international, I think it really depends. Like we see some of our customers, let me think, one of them is called, it's Kleiderkreisel in Germany. Vinted in the US, that's their American, their English name. So we see them having like going international by allowing people to buy from each other nationally, not by enabling international shipping.
So we keep, we talk about Amazon a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I always think about is Amazon has completely spoiled me, right?
Yeah.
I have this expectation now.
Not just you, everyone.
Right? If I can buy anything online, I can get it today. I even get frustrated with Amazon and I'm like, can't get it today, right? So, and again, when we think about some of these branded direct-to-consumer brands, like they're vertically integrated, they're responsible for getting things out. They deal with the Amazon expectation, have their own challenges. Again, we talk about marketplaces. You lose a lot of control the second you're no longer in charge of moving the inventory yourself. So what are some of the ways, maybe on the more innovative side, that you've seen some of your customers get around that problem of that lag or that delay?
Yeah. No, I think that's a really fascinating problem because, as you said, when you're a brand, you take ownership of the entire inventory. You decide when to ship it out, how to ship it out, what kind of box to put it into. So you really own the customer experience. When you're relying on a third-party seller, be it an amateur seller or a professional seller, you lose control over that. So what we've seen, but like how if you look at Amazon, I think it's also fascinating that when you buy on Amazon, it's almost the same experience if you buy from a third-party seller or from Amazon itself, because they have that Prime, even seller-enabled Prime, so they have really good like guidelines and restrictions around that, making sure that the end customer is always receiving that same streamlined experience. So what we're seeing is like a lot of our marketplaces, they're trying to figure out how to incentivize the sellers to follow these kinds of rules. And it starts with like how fast you ship things out. I think that's a really important thing, because on Amazon, like, what we see is like 55% of our customers, they ship out their items within 24 hours of an order being received. So that turnaround time needs to be almost immediate. And then customers, like when they buy something, they start calculating the shipping time from the moment they click buy. They don't have that sort of awareness that there's a warehouse involved, there's picking and packing involved. So that time needs to be cut down to as fast as possible. And then we see our customers, like the marketplaces, incentivize their sellers by baking like incentives into seller ranking. So if you don't ship out on time, if you receive negative reviews, you might get ranked lower. Some of our customers, like Goat is a great example, they even charge more commission if you're a seller that is misbehaving or like not ranked highly. And if you're a seller that's always shipping out on time, that doesn't get a lot of returns, then you get charged less commission. So there are a bunch of interesting incentives that you can think through and build into your marketplace to make sure that sellers behave the way you want them to.
That's great. We've got more questions. I want to take a pulse from the audience. I want to throw in one question for the audience right now. Anybody have a question we want to ask Laura before I go on? Yeah.
So how can individual sellers compete against Amazon Prime?
It's a good question. So specifically against Amazon Prime or against Amazon sellers?
2-day free shipping.
Yeah. So I think
While maintaining their margins.
Yeah. So I think what Amazon does very well is putting their inventory close to demand. So all of their inventory, they ship out of warehouses that are in a 70-mile radius of the end customer. And a lot of SMBs, they don't have that sort of ability because they don't have access to multiple warehouses at the same time. I think the upside is that there are a bunch of startups out there now. Shippo is a great example. Flex, both of them are Shippo customers that enable SMBs to like spread out across multiple warehouses. Without wanting to go into too much detail, I think the complexity here is that if you work with multiple warehouses, a lot of them have different like warehouse management systems. It gets complicated. So what Flex and Shippo do is they have the same warehouse management system, the same like cloud-based platform spread across like a bunch of different warehouses, and they help you put inventory into the right places. So that's one example. What I think the other way you can think about it is if you're selling an item that is not a commodity, so not a generic good, you can own not having 2-day free shipping. If you're selling something that has more of a, like, I don't know, emotional connection, it's a special item, it's not something that you can buy on Amazon, then that's something where you can charge a little for shipping and customers won't complain.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. The differentiation of actually what you're carrying.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of the direct-to-consumer brands, a lot of them made very specific choices to not also sell on Amazon for that reason, to really own that customer and own that customer relationship. Yeah. I think it's an added challenge once you get into marketplaces, of course, right? But there has to be something different about those goods.
Yeah. By the way, one other thing, I know we're going to get to Q&A later as well. If people want to ask questions that are not shipping related, that's perfectly fine as well. I know that not everyone wants to talk about shipping.
That's actually so I want to go to another question, because like I think we think about Shippo, your customers think about Shippo as helping shipping. The reality is there's some really interesting network effects in your business, right? So I did want to talk to you about in the early days, how that's evolved to what you have now in terms of all of the network that you're running in the background, right?
Yeah.
And how you've grown and scaled that and how you've thought about that network effect.
Yeah. So when we started the business, so there are lots of layers here. I mean, when I started this business, growing up, I didn't really think I wanted to be in shipping. So shipping is not something that I was always excited by. It was something that we started exploring when my co-founder and I were running an e-commerce store on the side. And then that e-commerce store ran into a bunch of shipping challenges. We realized that shipping technology is like clunkier than Stripe's technology, for example. And that's when we started looking into it. And then even as we work through shipping, I look at it less of a shipping challenge, more of a like reducing complexity, reducing friction, increasing efficiency challenge. And we've like always thought about like, should we be a marketplace? Should we be a platform? What does that even mean? What are the differences? And in the end, we decided on the platform approach, really abstracting away all of the different shippers, like carriers in the background, making sure that we offer a streamlined experience. And we have a bunch of network effects that we also used in fundraising while pitching. I think that made the business more attractive. On the one hand, there's that network effect of like, the more carriers we have on the platform, the more we like abstract away, the more value we provide to our customers. And then the more customers join us, the more carriers want to join us. That's the simplest one. Then we have an economies of scale effect where the more packages we ship, the better the discounts we get with the shipping providers. And then the better the discounts, we can pass them on to our customers and get more customers. And then last but not least, it's the data network effect. So for every package we ship, we have access to a certain data set that we can then use to optimize and give our customers more accurate transit times, better routing, better optimization, just better prediction, where it almost goes into like, AI is too much of a fancy word, but just predictive analytics, machine learning, where we can help optimize.
So another thing I was thinking about with you guys, so one of the things that as an early stage investor I have noticed is that ideas tend to come in these waves. And I might meet a company building something in a space, and then like literally that same week or that same month, I see 3 more opportunities in that exact area. And that's, you know, and they may not even know about each other. They may not be launched. You have an interesting perspective, because not only do you see these new companies, you know, come on as customers, but you also see who's scaling.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as you think about, what are some of the trends that you're seeing that maybe could inform not just the investors in the room around what the hot spaces might be, but also some of the founders in the room about like, are they at the kind of cutting edge of something that's about to be emerging?
Yeah. So talking about data, like I do think at some point we could launch a VC fund on this, and it would be a lot of fun. But like because we do see like all of the customers getting started. We see what
I should
items.
caveat, we do not get to see Shippo data. Just so everybody's aware. I'm assuming that's true for other investors too.
So we see all the items being shipped, and I think it comes in waves. So these are all like direct-to-consumer brands. It really comes in waves. For a while, I think vaping was a big thing, so we saw all of that getting started. Then there was a crazy time where like everyone was starting stores, probably importing and reselling. What are these called? Hoverboards or something?
Oh, yeah.
And then they started exploding. And then the USPS banned them, so that stopped. And then now we see a lot of like, it's an interesting trend around like men's health brands. So Hims is a great customer on our using us to ship, and there are a bunch of competitors out there as well. I think it's an interesting trend where people are now like exploring how to directly sell to men, and have that like have products that are accessible online. What else? No, I think if we look at direct to consumer brands, like what the ones that perform best on our platform on our platform are really those that sell a product that tell a real story to the end customer. So it's about marketing yourself very well, about like selling a lifestyle more than a product. So a lot of our customers are unbundling larger CPG brands, selling razors directly to the end customer. And a razor is a razor, right? But like they sell it directly to the end customer. It arrives at your doorstep, so removing friction. It has some sort of lifestyle awareness. If you're using this razor, you're associating yourself with like, you're that kind of person, a much cooler person than the person that goes to Walgreens. So yeah, it's telling that story, selling the lifestyle.
So that's a great question that leads me to another thing to think about. So, you know, you obviously have seen a lot of brands have success differentiating from as Amazon setting themselves apart by telling a story, right? By being storytellers about the product that they're selling, the person they're selling to, why this razor makes me so much cooler, right? So much cooler. But when it comes to a marketplace, you know, and there's obviously they're an intermediary between the seller and whatever the seller is trying to project and whatever the buyer is trying to project. So have you seen any and there may be some similarities and maybe some differences, but how have you seen marketplaces be effective in driving that storytelling when maybe they're not actually in control of the story?
Yeah, I'll try to answer this quick, and maybe we have time for one more question. But like, I love Poshmark as an example here, and I know you're an investor in Poshmark. So what Poshmark does really well is that they do have that sort of brand because they have a community, and people in that community, they embody the brand. So people on Poshmark, they like go on the platform, talk to each other, they're friendly with each other, they swap items, they like host online parties to sell things. It's really
And
a
offline
lifestyle.
parties, actually.
And offline parties. Interesting. It's really a lifestyle more than just a marketplace.
Yeah. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes for Q&A. We got a first great question in advance. Yeah.
How do you deal with spot pricing for shipping and giving a customer a consistent price?
What kind of pricing?
Spot pricing.
What spot pricing?
With carriers and like a lane from San Francisco. to
Oh,
LA
I see.
prices.
Oh, I see. So I mean, it depends what you're shipping. So when you're shipping parcels, they actually keep the price consistent the entire year, and they raise prices once a year. And when they raise prices once a year, I think it's perfectly reasonable to adjust it for everyone because the entire market needs to do that. I think what you could be referring to, or what could be another problem, is when you, like, for example, have the incorrect address, or it's a residential address versus a business address. There can be surcharges that come on top, and I think that's really it depends. Like, I would recommend the seller eat, or the platform eat, those surcharges, because it's something that's unexpected and you don't want the end consumer to be surprised by anything. I think like shipping is really something that can turn the end consumer also into a repeat purchaser. If you put the right return label in there, if like everything meets expectations, that's a part of the customer experience.
Is there ever a time where it's actually cheaper to send something, but you're still saying shipping is $12?
Oh yeah, of course.
And you eat that up as well.
I mean,
Back to the customer.
so first of all, I think we as Shippo, we don't eat anything up. We pass through the data to the platform, and the platform is the one setting up these rules. So the platform can set up shipping for this item is always $12, and then like with the data that the platform has, or that we give them, you can run an analysis of like, this will average out, or you will always have a little bit of a buffer and maybe even make money off shipping. Some of our customers do make money off shipping, and I think that's totally fine to do as well.
Got a question in there, and then we'll go to you after that.
I'm curious if you guys have a desire to maintain some visibility of these transactions. We have a shipping marketplace that our buyers are very adamant that the end customer thinks that the shipment is coming from them as opposed to coming through a shipping platform. Do you guys want to expose Shippo as a brand in the transaction at all?
So our logo is on the shipping label, but so is the USPS logo and FedEx logo. So, I mean, our customers, the consumer knows that FedEx is shipping in. They don't really need to know where or how the seller bought the label. We also allow our sellers to put their logos on it if they want to. So I think we're an infrastructure platform in the background. It's like some of these checkouts are powered by Stripe Checkout and it's branded, but it's not really the core experience.
Yeah.
Hi. How do you see any, do you actually partner, do you see any possibilities for partnerships, like cross-selling, upselling with other shipping-related services or products like packaging, 3PLs, or something like that? Do you consider that? How do you look at this stuff?
Yeah. I think, we're for sure thinking about it. I mean, for example, recommending our customers the right box sizes. We do that, and we can tell them, like, it would be ideal if that box would just magically show up at their home. 3PLs, we partner up with them, and we recommend our customers the right 3PLs. So these are all like, we don't automatically do that yet. It happens through an account manager. But I like what's built into the platform right now is insurance as one upselling opportunity, for example. So like we try, like as we grow the business, we try to build in as much as possible. Yeah.
One follow-up question. How much big of the businesses do you guys do in US or internationally?
So I would say 90% of the business is in the US. Yeah.
This is a quiet side of the room.
Yeah.
Any questions over here? All right, I think we've got I think are we at time, or are we at a minute for one more? All right, so I'll ask you one more question then. I think
Okay.
everybody loves benchmarks.
Benchmarks.
Right? Like benchmark, how do we benchmark ourselves with best in class companies?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to, probably this is like for you, it's going to be providing some shipping benchmarks here.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some benchmarks that we all should have in mind as we're building towards that, like the best in class, world class companies are doing from a shipping
Yeah.
perspective?
So I think the one benchmark that's obvious is that Amazon Prime sets the benchmark at free shipping and 2-day shipping. I think what
Let's talk about achievable benchmark.
I think the other thing to be aware of is like that expectation is not going to go away. Like people, their expectations are going to be higher and higher. Amazon is rolling out 1-day shipping for Prime in I think 800 locations in like they published that in their last shareholder letter. So I think it's just going to get faster and faster what the customer expectations are. And then the other benchmark that I have in mind is just like shipping out within 24 hours. That's best practice, making sure that your items, once the order comes in, is being shipped immediately.
Awesome.
Thank
Join me
you.
in thanking Laura.